So welcome back to the meta breakdown, where I go over the meta with you on Vicious Syndicate and bring in Hearthstone Replay every now and then. But I'm going to focus on Vicious Syndicate because it is a lot more visually appealing. They have graphs here all over the place, and cool little diagrams to help you know what decks are strong. And so yeah, basically I'm going to go over what's going on in the meta so you guys can decide for yourselves what decks you would rather play. And also give some of my input as well to what I would personally play in the meta if I really wanted to climb. So without further ado, let's just jump into it. We're going to jump into all ranks at first and then get a little bit more specific with it here. We're going to focus the least on top 1k legend because it has the smallest sample size, but it's still going to be something we're going to focus on. So across all ranks, Paladin is still number one, the number one class. Spell Mage is still the most overall played deck. Control Warlock is still the most overrated deck in the game, which should probably be knocked down quite a few pegs. Face Hunter is well, not really a sleeper. You can't really be a sleeper if you have like 8.62% play rate overall, but considering how strong it is, it's kind of a sleeper since it's played less than Spell Mage and Warlock as a whole. Then, as you go down here, you get to a very good even distribution of decks from Priest down to Warrior. Very healthy looking meta. And then you got Shaman here, which has almost nothing. Even after the nerfs, very little play. And this is probably spiked up a little bit because it saw a huge spike in play on day one of the buffs and nerfs. So this should probably be a little bit more like 3.0%. But yeah, I've been playing a little bit of Shaman recently, and I actually think it has some potential. I'll get into that into a bit. But I want to talk about right here, Druid, Rogue, and Demon Hunter. If you look at the statistics on Hearthstone Replay says that Druid, Demon Hunter, and Rogue are 3, 4, and 5 in terms of overall win rate. And yet, if you look at the play rate according to Vicious Syndicate, and even Hearthstone Replay as well, although it's not as good at showing it, are played the 7th or 6th, 7th, and 8th most, which is weird. And it has this weird little imbalance, right? It's something that you look at a lot in terms of like streaming, the ratio of, let's say, viewers to total channels. And if you go into a very saturated field, which have a lot of channels, you're not going to get a lot of viewers. But comparing that to Hearthstone, these are decks that have a lower amount of channels, but the high potential for viewers. So people don't know how really to play against these classes because they're played less frequently than a lot of these other classes, but they have higher win rates than a lot of other classes in the game, most notably Mage and Warlock, which are absolutely dominating the meta right now in terms of play rate. So I would say that these are the three classes I would look at if you want like a sleeper OP deck that people really aren't expecting. And to be fair, Death Rattle, Demon Hunter, and Miracle Rogue are very difficult to play, so they will take a little bit of a learning curve, but definitely good decks to pick up. And then the last thing I want to say is Hunter. Hunter is in a very similar situation where it is the second highest win rate deck by a pretty wide margin, and it's actually been slowly creeping up and catching up to Paladin over the past couple of days. And if you look here, it's the 4th most played class, and it's pretty significantly behind Paladin, Mage, and Warlock. And considering Hunter does well against Priest, Warlock, and Mage, I'd say that Face Hunter is the last sleeper OP deck that you could use to climb across all ranks. Going from Diamond 1 to Diamond 4, the spike in Face Hunter makes sense. The drop in Mage and Warlock makes sense. The rise of Demon Hunter, Druid, and Rogue makes sense. And this more accurately represents what's going on in Hearthstone Replay. As you can see, Hearthstone Replay, like I said, I'll just scroll over to the side here real quick and have it open like this. My bad. And you can see here that it would go Paladin, Hunter, Druid. Druid's a little bit lower, but Druid's kind of boring. Demon Hunter at 4, Demon Hunter at 5. And it's just like the upper parts of this make more sense. And then obviously Shaman's down here, which is weird because Priest has such a low win rate. But to be fair for Priest, it's a higher skill cap kind of class. Then you go to Legend, where Rogue really takes a spike in the upward direction, and Hunter just goes on a downward spiral, which again, I don't get. I've played Face Hunter for like ever since I hit Legend, and out of 30 games, I'm 24-6 with Face Hunter. It is an absolute meta destroyer, and I don't understand why it doesn't see play. I really don't. And let's just show this to you right now. My Face Hunter deck, I guess it's 23-6 with a slightly different build of Face Hunter being here. So it's still 24-6, very solid deck. I don't know why it's the second least played class in the game here. And again, it doesn't reflect what's going on in the overall win rates. Warlock is garbage. Priest is really bad. Mage has had a lower win rate as well. So these are things that you need to take into consideration. Don't necessarily play them because they're being played by a lot of people. Try to find decks and classes with a high win rate that don't have a high frequency because people won't figure out how to play against them. And then top 1000 Legend, huge spike in Miracle Rogue because it's insane. Libram Paladin. Control Priest, like I said, is a high skill cap deck, so it's a little bit different. Its win rate is going to be slightly lower than what it actually is, which is why it's being played a ton. Face Hunter being played next to nothing. To be fair, Face Hunter is more of a pub stomp kind of class, so it definitely will do worse the higher into Legend that you go. But even so, like half of those wins came from when I was playing in 1000 to 2000 Legend, which is relatively high near the beginning of the season. So yeah, I really think that Face Hunter, especially if you're trying to climb, is a very good deck to look at overall. And the meta looks relatively healthy, right? You have the thing at the top, but it's not in 20% or higher. Basically, if the meta doesn't have the top deck have a 20% or higher play rate, I think that that's relatively healthy, as long as it doesn't get too high. But yeah, across all ranks, the meta looks relatively healthy. Again, I would focus on the decks that people play less, especially because learning decks like Miracle Rogue and Demon Hunter will help you if you get to higher ranks because they're played quite a bit up here. And yeah, that is about it. Scrolling down, though, you can see visually the meta health-wise. And there was a time when Mage was played like 35-36% of all decks, and since then it has come down, and all of the decks except Shaman are very close together, which is just, you know, quite helpful. We could go daily as well and see once again how high above the rest Mage was for a while, and how, you know, Paladin was initially nerfed. People started picking it back up again because they were like, hey, this is still really strong. And everything else is clumped right here. So overall, this is what a meta looks like relatively healthily. Shaman has had its play rate double roughly, which is also kind of cool. I've been playing around with it as well, and that's kind of nice. So yeah, I do think that the meta looks healthy right now. And I don't think that there's that much you can do to abuse the meta. But like I said, maybe playing Face Hunter or playing, like I said, Rogue, Demon Hunter, and Druid are ways that you could get an edge across the meta, because everybody's expecting Paladin, everybody's expecting Spell Mage, and people are trying to counter it as we speak. These are all the matchups. You guys can just pause this and look at specific matchups for any deck you want to play. Basically, how it works is this is the deck that you're playing, and this is the opponent's deck. It's like Clown Druid historically does well against Death Rattle Demon Hunter and Lifesteal Demon Hunter because you ramp up and get huge minions, but does poorly, red is bad, against Token Druid and Face Hunter because they go really, really fast, develop a board, and it'll probably kill you. Next, as you go down here, this is the tier list that Vicious Syndicate has, not based on purely win rate, but on power of the deck as a whole. And as you can see, the decks look okay. There are a decent number of decks in tier 1 and tier 2. I would say that Lifesteal Demon Hunter should be moved up a little bit. I'd say that this is the only deck that they really got wrong. Other than that, I would say that most of these things make sense. I'd say Rush Warrior, move that down a little bit. Lifesteal Demon Hunter, move that up into tier 2. And other than that, this looks relatively solid. Looking across all Legend, Lifesteal Demon Hunter drops because it's a high skill cap deck. And Diamond 1 to Diamond 4, again, I think it drops even further to tier 4. So this just shows that, like, these decks are the decks that will do well if you really learn how to play them. With Lifesteal Demon Hunter, again, being the only exception. And these higher skill cap decks that are high win rate in, or high power rate in top 1k Legend and Legend in general, are the decks that I like to focus on. So yeah, Libram Paladin, obviously very strong. Same with Secret Paladin. Paladin in general's busted. Gibberling Druid is the, like, unsung hero of the meta. It does so well into most matchups, and nobody plays it because it's boring. But if you don't care about having fun and you just want to climb, sheesh, Gibberling Druid is going to be a great deck for you. Holy moly, it's going to be fantastic. Scrolling down the list some more, you got Face Hunter, like I said, another great deck that isn't played that much. Rush Warrior, still very strong. Death Rattle Demon Hunter, Secret Rogue, and Miracle Rogue, and then Clown Druid, Aggro Paladin. Still very good decks in Legend. And again, the one deck I think that should be moved up is Lifesteal Demon Hunter. And yeah, as you can see, there are a pretty decent number of decks I would recommend playing in general. So there's a lot of stuff you can do here. So if you go to the top 1K Legend, and this is another thing where it basically shows you visually kind of what's going on here. So look visually, this is the power level of the deck, and this is the frequency score of the deck, how often they are played. What I like to look for is decks in this bottom right-hand corner. The decks in the bottom right-hand corner are decks people won't know how to play against, but still have a relatively high power score. Normally, I try to look for something with above a 70 power score and below a 50 frequency. So that leaves you with Secret Paladin, Rush Warrior, and Gibbering Druid in order to try to snipe the meta and beat it. And try to counter it to at least some extent, because people won't see it coming. Decks like Libram Paladin are just ridiculously strong and played a lot. Like, you can't go wrong necessarily with these super high-rated decks in the top as well. But yeah, I try to steer away from decks below about 60 for the most part, but some of these are an exception. Like, again, Lifesteal Demon Hunter should be higher, I think. Going to Legend, as you can see, it looks entirely different from here. Looking here, you can see that the frequency of Mage is really high, but it's actually not that powerful of a deck. It's actually around, it's below the 40 in terms of power level wise. So it's a little bit overrated in my opinion. And then going here, this is probably Face Hunter along with Libram Paladin, Secret Paladin. Again, everything 70 and above are good. And once again, anything below a 50% frequency is what I'd go for. So Rush Warrior, Gibbering Druid, Secret Rogue, and Clown Druid slightly. And I guess Demon Hunter slightly. They're on the fringe are all decks I would go for. Then Diamond 1 to Legend, it's all over the place. Just play Face Hunter or Secret or Libram Paladin. They're just the best go-to decks for climbing. And then as you can go down the list, you can get all of the decks that you want. If you scroll down, these are just all the deck lists if you want to go to the Vicious Syndicate site. And I don't know why this ad is here for 5fine, but that's the mic I'm currently using. If you go down in the description, there's actually a sponsorship thing for me. If you click on the link and buy something from their website, I get a little bit of a cut from that, which is really helpful. And I would recommend this microphone quite a bit. I think it's better than the Blue Snowball. And it's only $20 more, but for $20 you also get the arm that you see here. You get a pop filter that you see here on the microphone. It comes with a mute button and a way to adjust the volume manually without having to go onto an extra software thing. And this sponsorship was not really planned, or this shout out wasn't really planned. I just was scrolling down and saw that the 5fine Studio condenser USB microphone was here, and I was like, hey, wait a minute, that's pretty cool. That's actually the company that is sponsoring me. That's probably why, because, you know, Google knows everything about you. But overall, what I would recommend for the meta is Demon Hunter, Rogue, Druid, and Face Hunter. Paladin is overplayed, but you can't really go wrong with it. Mage and Control Warlock are overrated. And Control Priest I would stay away from unless you, like, really know what you're doing with it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, feel free to like, comment, subscribe. It really helps me out a lot. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.